On Everyday Reviews. If you're new to the channel, hey, we do this, or we try to do this every week, where we pick a topic, something that's interesting, hopefully to you, and sometimes we have some special guests. So if you can't make it for the whole session, don't worry, this will be up on the Everyday Reviews YouTube channel that you are watching right now. And also make sure to subscribe if you like the content, and if you have any ideas of what you'd like to hear about, or have questions about a certain topic, leave the comment below, regardless if it's live or if it's afterwards. But if you are live, welcome, and leave a comment. Make sure to do that there, and we will try our best to answer them. So we do all sorts of topics. In the past, we've had Motormouth Canada, Zach, on the show. Recently, Road to a Million. The straight pipes. What does it take to get to 1 million subscribers on YouTube? We've talked about the Grand at Moon Paso. We have travel sections. And next week, if you're an aviation buff or a photography buff, you do not want to miss Brian Lazito from Air Canada. He's their corporate photographer. He's going to be on live next week. So this week, we have a special guest. We have Thomas Tetzlaff from Volkswagen Canada. Welcome, Thomas.
Hey, Brian, good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hey, no worries. It's been a while. We haven't seen each other for quite a while, since the beginning of the pandemic, which we did have a launch prior to this, which was the Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport right here in British Columbia. But just give us a little bit of background. Who are you for the people that don't know who you are?
Well, I am the public relations manager for Volkswagen Canada, and essentially what that means is I get to talk about Volkswagens all day long with people such as yourself and other members of the media. We pretty much talk product. We talk about the company. We talk about what's new. We talk about what's changing, what's coming, what's going, anything to do with Volkswagen in Canada, and eventually you'll end up talking to me. And I've had the great pleasure of knowing you for many years, and we've been on many different adventures together. I was actually just looking at a few this afternoon and reminiscing of the days back before the lockdown, if you will, back when we were allowed to go out and about and look at places and look at great cars and such, and very much looking forward to getting back to those days, if you will. But I guess today, virtually, it'll have to do. Yeah,
well, virtually is better than nothing, that's for sure. So what have you been doing during this pandemic, and what's Volkswagen been doing, and what's the future in the near future coming up here?
Well, as your viewers can probably imagine, it's been a very interesting time for us. We're a car company. We're very dynamic. We're about getting to places, traveling, driving, and such. And now we live in a world where all of that kind of stuff is, I'm not going to say frowned upon, but in some ways it is. It's stuff that you can't do. And it's been a bit of a transition. Obviously, we're working from home, and we being everybody at Volkswagen Canada, and also our great friends and partners at the dealerships are, doing business differently. But we're doing many of the same things. For the first responders out there, the frontline people, they still have to get places. So we have to make sure that if they're driving a Volkswagen, that Volkswagen is still running in tip-top shape. So we've got 143 dealer partners out there. Their service departments are all open. Obviously, they've taken the necessary precautions to make sure everybody's safe. So anybody coming into a dealership for service repairs, oil changes, tire changeover, whatever, you can rest assured you're going to be safe. Your dealer's going to take care of you. They can come to your house and pick up your car if you need to. So they're doing the things necessary to keep Canadians mobile. And we at the head office are trying to do what we can to make sure our dealers are still working. We're still sending out parts. We're sending out cars in the occasion that they are still selling a few cars, although that end of the business has gotten real quiet, let me tell you. And from my perspective, it's a lot of planning, a lot of contingency planning, a lot of what if you will, what can we do, what will we do, and ordinarily I'm pretty much a guy that thinks, acts, and runs in the same sentence. Now it's a lot of thinking, rethinking, think again, change your mind, pause, wait, and then see. So it's been a bit of a transition, but we'll get through this. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel already.
Okay, well that's a good answer. We'll talk about if it's the right time to buy a car in a second. Let's get to a few questions here. We have JC asking, can you comment when a Volkswagen Tiguan R will be arriving? And how about the Volkswagen Tarek, thanks.
A couple of excellent questions there. I'll start with the first one, obviously. A Tiguan R. For those of you that aren't familiar with Volkswagen, we add the R badge to some of our top performing cars. The one you'd be most familiar with in Canada is the Golf. The Golf Rs are fire breathing, close to 300 horsepower all-wheel drive Golf. That's, it's truly the wolf in sheep's clothing. It's very capable, very sporty, yet you can still take it pretty much anywhere you want to go without arousing too much attention. We're examining, and I use that word very carefully, we are examining the opportunity to bring something into the Tiguan line. So we have a Tiguan R line, so it's got some really nice looking features, spoilers and valences and some really nice interior pieces, but we haven't fiddled with the engine just yet. And what I mean by that is we are really giving it consideration. I can't sit here today and say, it's coming this day or it's going to be arriving at that time. But I will say this, it is definitely something that's in the hopper that we're working on. If we see a business case and we're able to rationalize it and make it work, it'll happen. We sell really a ton of these vehicles. It's our number one selling vehicle between the Golf, the Jetta, and the Tiguan. It's always a toss-up to see what's the most popular Volkswagen in Canada. We'd love to bring this vehicle in, but we have to make sure it works. And you need to consider that Tiguan is available in two flavors worldwide. There's a short wheelbase and a long wheelbase. In Canada and America, we only get the long wheelbase. In Europe, they get the short wheelbase as well. So if I had to think, I'd say it would lend itself particularly well to the short wheelbase model. But if they do it, I'll be the first one to hold up my hand to say, hey, you can do it with the extra long version as well. So that's question number one. Question number two, there was something about the Tarek. And the Tarek is, I guess you would say, a code name for a vehicle that we're working on, which is a slightly smaller sport utility. And I can't give you the real name yet because that's still a secret. And I'd probably have my internet cut off if I meant that on the call here today. But an as yet unnamed, yet currently being called Tarek Sport Utility is in the works, and it is getting very close to final spec for North America. By very close, I mean we're going to be seeing it really soon. Not in 2020, but looks like we're going to be seeing it sometime around the middle of 2021. Right now, in a COVID-19 world, I can't give you an exact date, but I think if you went with mid-2021, you'd be pretty close to that one. It'll be a little bit smaller than Tiguan. It'll look different, of course. It's not just going to be a shorter Tiguan like they have in Europe. It's going to be a model that is specifically designed for the North American market. So it's going to take into account what things our customers are saying we want. So look for that in about a year's time.
All right. Well, we've got like questions are just flying out here, Thomas. So we got to get to more questions here. Here's an interesting one. Air conditioning is a big thing for me. Are they the same for all cars, Audi, Volkswagen, and Porsche? And where is the Atlas assembled?
Sorry, that first part again, Brian. Air conditioning.
Air conditioning is a big thing for me. Are they the same for all cars, basically in the Volkswagen group for Porsche, Audi, and Volkswagen? And where is the Atlas assembled?
All right, let me go backwards in this one. Our Atlas and the Atlas Cross Sport are assembled in our plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We built this plant about 10 years now to start producing the Passat in North America. And, since people seem to love all things sport utility, when we came out with the Atlas a couple of years back, we thought, what better place or what better factory to produce this than our factory in Chattanooga? Now, you mentioned earlier that the last launch we were on before all of this shutdown stuff happened was the Atlas Cross Sport, and that is also produced in our Chattanooga, Tennessee factory. The Cross Sport's a slightly shorter 5-passenger version of the Atlas. You're going to see a lot of those on the road soon once things get back to normal. Now, back to the first part of the question about the air conditioning. Every single vehicle we build has some commonality. And by that, the Volkswagen Group is big. We've got a lot of different brands. We produce annually somewhere around 11 million vehicles. And it makes good economic sense to share and share alike. So engineers that are working on systems, like in this case, the HVAC system, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, they will look at different cars and say, all right, what can we adapt to work in, a Skoda and an Audi and a Volkswagen? And what you're going to see is a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, the condensers, the fans, and the motors that make these systems run are shared by a lot of our brands. But what's different is the switchgear. So what you're going to see as a passenger or a driver looking at your car, you're going to see these switches and that you're going to say, oh, that's uniquely Audi, or that's uniquely Skoda, or that's uniquely Volkswagen. But behind the scenes, the stuff that's working a lot of times is shared. We do this because we spend a lot of money in development. We want to make sure we develop the best materials possible, and we feel good about sharing it. I'm not going to say that every single car has the exact same parts, but we share quite a bit.
Awesome. Okay, is a new Tiguan R going to have a third row?
Aha. The Tiguan right now in North America, at least in Canada, I'll speak specifically, has a third row as an available standalone option. When we first started designing the new Tiguan, we looked at it, we said, all right, it's longer. It's so much longer than our previous generation Tiguan, and it's got room for a third row. Now, let me be honest with you. That third row is not going to hold a basketball player. This is truly a 5+2 vehicle. It's in a case where, you're out with your wife and you've got the girls out there, and all of a sudden they say, Dad, can we stop at so-and-so's house? When we're able to, of course, not today, but can we stop at so-and-so's and pick them up and go for ice cream? Well, super. If you've got a third row Tiguan or a Tiguan equipped with 3 rows, you flip it open, boom, boom, great for the kids. In they go, or you're taking the grandparents, or you just need that occasional additional space. Now, if you're carrying 6 or 7 passengers regularly, I can think of other vehicles you might want to consider, like the Atlas, or like Atlas, or maybe not. But the third row in the Tiguan's been really popular because it stows away nicely and it really doesn't take away from your luggage space. To the question about the Tiguan R, well, I'll say this. If we get the Tiguan R, it kind of would make sense to have that third row as well, because what's made the Tiguan unique in its segment, in the compact sport utility segment, is that it offers that third row. Even if it doesn't fit adults all the time, it sure is better than a cold walk in the rain. So if we get it, we'll get it.
All right. Okay. From Howie M, we have, this is a popular one. What's up with the Mark 8 Golf R from North America? Any hopes for a manual transmission option? Now, before you answer that, let's just talk about the regular Golf itself. What's up with this? And I think I've got some video to throw up here with that Golf that was just launched. That was in December in 2019, I believe, in Europe. That was when the launch was. I know that because I couldn't make it.
You are correct. It did hurt. I invited you.
I know. So I'm just throwing up some images here of it, and it looks. Let me just. Are you there still, Thomas?
I'm still here.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so what is going on with it? When are we going to get this car? And tell me a little bit more about the North American model.
All right, I'm looking at my second screen here, and if the timing is right, I'm seeing some really cool images of the Golf, so I'll talk over it. The 8th generation Golf is right now in production at our facility in Wolfsburg. Let me give you a little bit of background. Wolfsburg's one of the biggest car factories in the world, and it's the biggest one in our universe, if you will. And we are now we are fully switched over to the Mark 8 platform over there. Europe has already started receiving the Golf this past spring, so right about now, and Europe will be getting the GTI and R later this year probably. And once again, I have to put an asterisk up for the COVID-19 situation. All timings are hopefully on schedule, but we may be a few weeks here, a few weeks there, based on factories closing and that. Like right now, Wolfsburg is open again, as I mentioned, but we're operating at a significantly reduced capacity because we're learning the ropes now of how to operate in a social distance world. When you consider a factory that churns out 3,500 vehicles a day, that means a lot of people have to be in there, and we got to make sure that they're safe, because the safety of our employees is paramount. We got to make sure they're going to be there tomorrow, and that means we got to take the necessary steps today. Now, for Canada and North America, we're looking at a 2021 timeframe for the arrival of the Mark 8 Golf, and that'll mean that we still have a model year 20 Golf and GTI and Golf. We won't have a Golf R because, as you know, that 2019 was the last model year for Golf R, but we ordered a whole bunch of them. So our dealers still have a few left, which is kind of cool. We will then have a slightly abbreviated model year 2021 Golf and GTI in our dealerships. When I say slightly abbreviated, because we're anticipating a summer arrival. And by summer, I hedge my bets. That's any time from when it starts getting warm. And I know you're in Vancouver, Brian, so it's already warm there. But it snowed in Toronto yesterday.
I know, that's crazy.
That sure is. We'll have it next summer. And the launch of all three will be right around the same time. And I think the first part of the question was something about a manual transmission.
Yeah.
Seeing what you're wearing today, how could we do anything but? The Golf R has been such a, well, I'll show you mine, if you're going to show me yours. That's GTI.
Okay. Ah, nice.
The Golf R has been so popular with a manual transmission that we couldn't not bring it. Same goes with GTI, of course. Where other cars every year, they kind of dwindle in terms of their manual transmission penetration. We've seen great stability with the Golf R. We've seen great stability with the GTI, right around the 50-50 mark. So 100% manual transmission, and I'll let a little secret out. I don't like to talk about future product too much.
Oh, come on.
We've got so many questions about a sunroof on a Golf R. The answer is yes. Finally, you'll be able to get a sunroof on the Golf R. So a lot of exciting stuff in terms of exact horsepower figures and torque and that. Again, I'm going to keep my internet connected, and I'm not going to tell you exactly, but I'll say this. It will not be less than what we have now.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, I'm not going to ask you the question, like, hey, what do you think of the looks of the new Golf? Because obviously, you're going to say it looks great. I don't know. Maybe it's something that has to grow on me. It's kind of very radically different, I kind of find, especially that front end.
Well, I've seen it in the flesh, and I'll say this. As with anything that is in 3D, you have to see it in 3D to appreciate it. I look at any new generation Golf, and I'm a Golf fanatic. My first car was Mark I, a 76, one of the last of the Zenith carburetor cars. For you old-time Volkswagen people, you'll know what I'm talking about. But, I'm a Golf guy through and through, and always will be. And every time there's a new generation Golf, I get the same feeling. I get this feeling of trepidation. How are they gonna change a car I love so much? People ask me, what's your favorite generation Golf? My answer is always the one I'm in now, because they always get better. And then I see the pictures and the sketches and the mock-ups, and I get the privilege of seeing these really early. I see the Mark 8, and I go, oh, that looks different. Oh, that looks different. That looks different. I look at the wheels, I look at the front end, the headlights, the taillights, and I'm always holding my breath because I won't judge it until I see it. And as you mentioned, back in December, we had the world premiere of this car over in Portugal, and it rained on us the entire time there. But I was able to once again fall in love with this car. It is absolutely gorgeous. The proportions are great, and I know beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so everybody will have their own opinion, and I'm glad for that. But I'll tell you, I loved it. The front end was nice, it looked sleek, it looked sporty, but most importantly, perhaps, it was unmistakably a Golf. There was no way you could look at this and say it was anything else. It just had that classic proportion. Everything that you know about the car, that classic Golf C-pillar was there. But inside, holy cow, you want to talk about light years ahead?
Oh, yeah.
This thing, a spaceship.
Yeah, it really has a very premium upscale look. No doubt about it for this segment of vehicle. So I just want to get to some more questions here. Thomas, you doing okay there?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Okay, I'll say, so now we have Edward. I know Eddie here. Hello, gentlemen. If by chance there's a 1991 Scirocco collecting dust at head office, I would love to take it off your hands, he says. And
Well, if there was, I'll tell you, if there was any old Volkswagens collecting dust anywhere, they would already be in my garage. But thank you for asking. I don't know how big you folks are on the classic Volkswagen scene, but if you've ever been on a website called Bring a Trailer, you'll see what these Mark I and Mark II cars are bringing at the auctions lately. And there was a 91 Corrado that went through the auction for some serious coinage last week. I think it was just around $27,000 US. Wow, I think of all the Volkswagens I bought and sold in my life, I should have kept them all.
Well, Eddie, he handles basically most of the fleets out here for the press vehicles, so he's got the room for it. So make sure if you have one of those, and you don't have the room, he can probably store it for you.
No problem. Dust off beforehand too.
Okay, hey, Yuri from the Straight Pipes. Hi, Thomas and Brian. We just had the Straight Pipes on, so last week or the week before. So yes, I believe Yuri said that you were looking at his Prowler. Is that true? Did you see his Prowler drive by or something?
How can you miss it? It's yellow, for goodness sake. And not only does he park it in front of my house here, but I go driving down the street and I see him again. It stands like a beacon. Like, I'll tell you, if you want to be inconspicuous, that is the wrong car.
Okay, JC asks, will the EA888 2-liter turbo engine be direct and port injected in North America soon?
Oh, that's an excellent question. There's advantages and disadvantages to both systems, as we know. With almost everything these days, we've gone to direct injection. But there is some significant advantages to having a port injection system. It's more in longevity of the cars and, cleanliness of the backside of the valves and stuff like that. So I've done about 30 seconds of hedging my bets there. I can't give you that level of detail just yet for two reasons. One, because that's a competitive issue that we want to keep quiet. And most importantly, I'm not sure.
By the way, Thomas, I'm quite impressed of how you've controlled the dew. I saw you yesterday, and your hair did not look like that. That's for sure. I've actually got some product, and man, this hair is getting out of control. I can't even get one of those clippers. They're all sold out all over the place. Just want to mention that, just in case everyone's going, hey, what? I mean, I'm starting to look like my kids' Trolls dolls, with the hair that goes straight up there. So it's like, can you comment, though, from MX Sport Tour, comment on the potential expansion of powertrains such as a GTE option or the ID line of vehicles for Canada? Will we see the Space Vision concept? And this is one of my questions as well. What's going on with the ID family? We were at the launch, or not the launch for driving, but the reveal of the ID3. And I know Volkswagen has a huge plan for their electric vehicles. Has COVID-19 put a kind of like a delay on these plans? And when are these cars coming? That's what everybody wants to know.
Well, a whole bunch of questions. So what I'll do is I'll answer them all in, I guess you would call it, an electrical vehicle primer. First, to your question, Brian.
Yeah.
No, COVID-19 has not put any significant delays in. Now, we have to be realistic here. You can't shut down a plant and not expect to see some delays. But we're talking weeks here, nothing more than that. The ID family, for those of you that are not quite sure, that is our next generation of electric vehicles worldwide. And this is, not an overnight project. This is something we've been working on for years. We have spent and will be spending over the next few years upwards of $35 billion. That's American dollars too.
Wow.
So that's about 200 trillion Canadian at today's exchange, I believe. So we're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, and this is the ID basket. And the ID family is based on an electrical platform. Platform is essentially what is underneath the car. It's your running gear, your engine, your suspension, your transmission, and all that stuff. And if you can think of a Hershey bar or a skateboard, think of everything happening down low to the ground, you've got a pretty good idea of what our platform is. It's called MEB. It's the Modular Electric Platform, and it's going to underpin the entire ID family. And these ID family cars are going to range. And when I say range, I mean we're talking hatchbacks, we're talking sport utilities, we're talking GT Tourers, we're talking everything and anything. We even showcased an ID buggy show car just to let people know how flexible this platform was. And by flexible, I mean the different things you can put on it. Not flexible that it flexes when you go over railway tracks or anything like that. Now, the first of the ID family of cars that's going to reach market will reach market in Europe in the coming weeks, and that is going to be the ID3. And this vehicle, wow, like, you're seeing some stuff on the screen there. It's fantastic. Outside, it's the size of a Golf. Inside, it's the size of a Passat. And it really fits what Europeans are looking for. They love hatchbacks over there. And obviously, they're developing the love for electric vehicles. We've combined the two into this product. And that's the launch product in Europe. Now,
wait. They love hatchbacks, but Canadians love hatchbacks too. Sorry, I cut you off there, but are we going to get this in Canada?
Okay, Canadians do love hatchbacks. Down south of the border, not so much. And we have to consider that whenever we're launching vehicles in Canada, we do so in lockstep with our friends to the south. And we want to make sure that we've got the right product at the right time, at the right price for our market. And when I say our market, again, Canada, we are always looking out for Canada, but we need to be cognizant of the US as well. And both sides of the border, sport utilities are supreme right now. I looked at stats yesterday. For the first 3 months of 2020, sport utilities and pickup trucks, so all light trucks, comprise just a hair under 80% of the Canadian market. So if you're going to launch something significant like an all-new lineup of electric vehicles, you have to launch it as a sport utility. So the first ID family member that will come to Canada, that will be next year, will be the ID4. Used to be called the ID Cross when we showed it at the auto shows and such. Well, now it's the ID4, and it's coming here next year. I've seen the final product, uncamouflaged and all that stuff. It's jaw-dropping. Of course, I'm going to give you an unbiased Volkswagen opinion, but it's absolutely jaw-dropping. This is a vehicle that, whether it had a gasoline engine or an electric engine or maybe a bunch of hamsters under the hood, people would love, just for the looks. The fact that it's all electric is just the icing on the cake. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now, to tie up your question in a bow, when will we see the ID3? Will we see the ID3? Well, I suppose a lot of that depends on the success of the ID4. Because up until now, electric cars have been all the rage in the press, and the governments are talking about it, and everybody wants more electric cars. But the market's been a little slow, meaning sales are okay, but they're not great yet. Well, Volkswagen is out to change that. We want to be the electric car for the masses. We want to build electric cars for the millions, not just millionaires. So if we hit it out of the park with the ID4, and I mean really hit it out of the park, and that's part of my job, then it's possible we'll see an ID3 over here. Other than that, consumers, vote with your wallets. Come on out there, tell your dealers what you want, and we'll try to fulfill your needs. Now, beyond ID3, ID4, there's going to be plenty of other product. There's going to be a cadence right after we have our first launch where we're going to have all kinds of electric vehicles, because an electric vehicle isn't just one car. You were, and Zach, you had the great opportunity to see a whole bunch of them when we were down in Long Beach for that preview. Yeah. It was fantastic.
Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this on the screen right now, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm getting cross-eyed watching my laptop.
Yeah,
staring into the.
This was never even on my bucket list, but I realized this was a bucket list event for me. I had the chance to actually go behind the scenes of when they were filming some commercial material for the ID family. This is down in California, in LA, and we actually got to drive the ID Buzz, which is it was a one-off, only one in the world. There's Thomas right there. It was awesome just to see. They closed down the roads, and we had police escorts, and it was something else. So thank you, Thomas, for that experience. That was unbelievable.
I was so happy we didn't crash it. So happy.
Yeah. But after I saw that, like seeing that ID Buzz in person, I'm just really praying that it is similar. The production version will be similar to that, because the concept is just so cool. It really is so cool, and it's like, you basically take my money if it's going to be like that. I want one. Seriously.
Well, the concept was cool. The production version will be cooler. I've seen mock-ups of the interior. I've seen our product team working on this, and we've got some great people in our Canadian product team that are burning the candle at both ends, making sure that this thing is equipped perfectly for the Canadian market. It is going to be so cool. I don't have a date yet for the launch of the Buzz, but it is coming. Mark my words, it is coming. It's just a matter of when. We're going to get that ID4 out there. Hopefully Buzz will be next, but we'll see. Will we call it Buzz? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a contest and we'll rename it or something like that. But wow, I cannot wait for this vehicle because it has such great potential to be the all-around people hauler that people have, always cried out for when it comes to Volkswagen.
Well, just look,
rebirth.
It was so just hordes of people just wanted to see this vehicle. It was a great day. I think we had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning though, but it was well worth it and have to battle some heavy LA traffic. The straight pipes. This is from Jacob. Hi, Brian and Thomas. He misses seeing us, Thomas. We miss seeing you too, Jacob and Yuri. And everyone in the automotive industry. This is great to be able to do it virtually, but it'll be better when we can actually see each other in person.
There will be.
Yes. Then we have Howie. Why does North America always get the short end of the stick with VW? Don't they value the U.S. and Canadian markets?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to spin it a little bit because, I get all kinds of questions like this. Oh, why don't we get this and why don't we get that? We've got product teams in the U.S. and Canada that are cognizant of our international offerings. Like we see what we have internationally, and at the same time, we see what the Canadian market is doing. Like, I'm a big fan, I mentioned, of the Golf. I love the Polo, our smaller car. But I need to understand where the market is going in Canada. Take the example of Polo that I just mentioned. The subcompact market in Canada is drying up faster than a lake in the desert. And for us to invest in such a product is going to be hurtful to the corporation, And if you make too many mistakes, I'll say this, you lose the flexibility to bring the product in that you really want. Right now, we've pushed so hard to make sure that we've got great cars in our lineup, like the Golf, like the GTI, like the Golf R. We've tailor-made the Jetta and the GLI to the North American market, even though Europe, decided, we don't want those notchbacks anymore. There's always going to be something greener on the other side of the fence. And we'll do our best to bring the greenest stuff over, but at the same time, we have to make sure that it's sellable, that the Canadian market and the U.S. market are going to be, willing to crack their checkbooks open for it. So trust me, I'm going to keep the manuals out there. I'm going to keep the cool cars coming. And as long as I'm with Volkswagen, we'll have the cool product. And for those of you that want to drive a Scirocco left-hand or right-hand drive, you'll have to go to Australia like we did and drive it over there.
Yes. I actually have a video on, not on the Scirocco, but on that trip. That was mind-blowing. Some of these questions we've already answered, like when is the subcompact CUV coming to Canada? Well, you kind of answered that with the smaller Tiguan a little bit. But how about the T-Roc?
T-Roc, there's another one, and here's a great example of people are looking at what we've got international. T-Roc is a really small sport utility. Like it is, I guess you would call it Polo based. It is considerably smaller actually than our Golf. And when we examine the project, obviously, we go to Wolfsburg and we look at what the designers are producing. We look at it, and yes, it had allure. It had that sex appeal, if you will, as a product. But we think that what we're bringing to market next year, the code name Tarek that was referred to earlier in the call, we think we've hit this one bang on. Like it's the right size. It's smaller than Tiguan, but not too small, because if you're buying a sport utility, the key word is utility. You want to be able to put your stuff into it. We think we've hit it with this one. We've made sure the looks are good. We're going to make sure the engines and transmissions are good, and we'll make sure the price is good. So if you can hold your breath for just a few more months, I think you'll be pleased with the result. Okay,
Alex, once again, some of these we have touched on these about the Mark 8 Golf R. When is it going to come? We have said that will VW release any hybrid or plug-in vehicles? Well, the ID3 is coming. Plug-in wise, nothing really a lot with plug-in though, is there, Thomas?
Well, the ID, I guess, if you want to talk pure battery electric, absolutely. That's what ID is going to be all about. We learned a lot with our e-Golf, which was a really popular car, and it's been phased out. And we know that the ID series is that squared. When it comes to if they're talking about plug-ins like plug-in hybrids and such, We don't have any plans for that in North America yet. However, being the global company that we are, obviously we have such offerings that'll be available in Europe. And in the future, if we see that's where the trend is going, well, then we'll give it closer consideration. But right now, everybody's telling us battery electric is the way to go, and that's the way we're going to go.
Here's a good question. Is pickup speed 0 to 40 kilometers per hour faster in an electric Golf versus a GTI or a Golf R?
Ooh.
I'm going to take a guess. Mine's going to be a guess.
Electric cars are known for their instantaneous torque. We know, it's an electric motor. As soon as you stomp on it, you got all your torque and off you go. So I guess in the 0 to 10 or 0 to 20 race, my money's going to be on the e-Golf. Now, when you've got beyond that, you start getting into the advantages of internal combustion engines and such. GTI's got a bit lighter weight, but the Golf R is able to hook up a lot more power with that all-wheel drive system. I think, Brian, we're going to have to go out back behind, maybe go to the airport somewhere, line up the 3 cars and do it ourselves. If nothing else, it's going to give us something to do one of these afternoons.
Yeah, and while we do 0 to 40, we should do like 0 to 80, 0 to 100, 0 to 200. We should do it all.
Well, always within the boundaries of the law, of course.
Of course, absolutely.
Anything outside of the legal limit.
Absolutely. This is about the Arteon. Nicole thinks the pricing is not competitive. Is there a chance on adding more features up to value factor in the Arteon, such as a V6 or DCT?
That's an interesting question. I guess when it comes to any car, you have to look at 2 things. There's price and there's value. With the Arteon is a premium offering from Volkswagen. We had an earlier question about, why don't we get, more European product and such? Well, here's a good case. Arteon is a pure European product. It was meant for the European market, but we had enough of an outcry for it in North America that we thought, let's bring it in. As such, it's got a lot of premium features. It's based on all our latest technology and such, but when you pack a lot into a car, you have to charge for it. If we bring over too many products at a loss, then I guess I'm working for somebody else, and that's not such a good thing. I want to stay with Volkswagen for a while. What we've done with our model year 20 Arteons is we've changed the packaging a little bit. We've made a few more features standard and such. The features that our customers were looking for, we want to make sure they all get them. So we've repackaged the Arteon a little bit. We think the price value equation is pretty strong on this car. And when you compare it pound for pound up against the competition, drive it, see what it's got. And the aesthetics obviously are individual. Everybody will look at a car differently. Some people will love the look, some people will hate it. So I can't account for that. But when you stack this car up pound for pound against the others in the segment, or, there's not a lot in the liftback segment, if you will, I think we've got a strong proposition here, a really strong one.
I was shocked. I would really think that it's a fabulous looking car. That's for sure. It blew my mind when that car came out. It's a beautiful car. If you haven't seen a lot on the road though, unfortunately. I haven't in the area where I live, and when you do see them, you're like, wow, that's it's surprising. David Miller, Miller time, a fellow Seahawks fan. He's great to see you on a social channel, he says. And so David Miller is also a big Seahawks fan, as is Thomas there. Yes, a little bit of a fan. Yeah. We talked about the ID3 already. When is it coming to Canada? Does VW give dealership sales targets and a financial benefit / volume rebate for reaching those targets? And why are these not fully disclosed and make the car buying process at dealerships so out of date?
Well, that's an excellent question. And, well, they've all been excellent questions. This one I take personally because that's where I got my start. My career started, my career in the automotive sector, shall we say, many years ago, was in retail. And I worked on the showroom floor, worked many different roles in the dealership. And then I transitioned to head office, and I've seen it from both sides. And then I've added the third side in, and that's the retail component, what you see as a consumer. And obviously, as a manufacturer, it's in our best interest to take care of the customer, because we want to make sure that customers are happy, not just with the cars, but with the buying process. Our dealerships, there's 143 of them in Canada. They're all independently owned and operated, meaning somebody else runs the show. They kind of have the name out front. They've got our cars and such, but they're running business as they see fit. We do all kinds of things working with our dealers to encourage as many people as possible to consider Volkswagen. And when I say consider, we're the manufacturer. We don't sell directly to any customer other than our dealers. So we want to do what we can to make the buying process simple. You know, through our websites, we disclose as much information as possible, and we try to make the process transparent. And we think our dealers do an excellent job with this as well. But I know as a consumer, it oftentimes is confusing because all you have to do is pick up your laptop or, you know, a newspaper if you still have those, and you take a look and you read about all the offers, all the deals. It really is hard to figure out what's going on sometimes. And all I can offer up to the reader here or the viewer here is do your homework. Pretty much everything you would ever want to know is available online. All the pricing, everything you'd want to have is online somewhere. And I realized that, you know, it would be easy if everything was printed on a great big sheet of paper and hung up out front, but I don't know of a single, you know, segment of the economy where it's that clear, where there's no fine print. We're trying to do our best. We're right now working on, you know, getting more and more internet sales available and such. It's tough because you want to please everybody. You want to please the people that want a touchless approach. They don't want to go into a dealership. They just want to do everything online. And then you have the other side where you've got people that want to do it old school and such. We're trying to meet them in the middle. It's tough, but educate yourself and you will have a good buying experience.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to kind of fly by these questions. There's a lot of them. Would you guys buy a Phaeton? I personally, we don't have Phaetons here, but we did have the Phaeton in North America for a very short period of time. I remember because we actually I drove one. This was about, like more than 15 years ago. And at that time, it was $100,000, Thomas. How many did you sell in Canada?
Well spent, Brian. Money well spent. We had the Phaeton for about 3 abbreviated model years here in Canada. And, you know, I've often heard people say it was the answer to a question no one was asking. You know, this was the ultimate Volkswagen. That's the only way I can describe it. It was designed to do anything and everything a customer could ask for, but do it in a Volkswagen way, without flash, without dash. And as we were quick to find out, you know, the people that are spending this stratospheric amount of money, they want a little bit of flash and dash. You know, and we found our fans out there, people that appreciated the car for what it was, but at the end of the day, they also wanted that big logo on the key so they could show all their friends what they bought, and the Phaeton wasn't it. But that's okay, because we learned a ton, and we kept our 44,000 engineers very busy on this project, designing all the stuff I talked about earlier. I think the first question was about, are the air conditioning systems the same? Well, let me tell you, the technology that we put into Phaeton went into everything else across the Volkswagen line. We were years ahead with this car, and years later, we're still using some of the tech that our engineers came up with for this car. So to those of you out there that says, oh, the Phaeton, that was a big fail in North America. Well, maybe on the sales sheet, but certainly not on the balance sheet, because we were able to amortize the costs we put into this car throughout the line of Volkswagen, and we learned a lot from it. Will there be another Phaeton? Well, probably not. But remember, this is also from the group that contains the names, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, and such. So we're keeping those engineers busy. Trust me.
Yeah, I know this answer. Have you ever been to the Grand Moon Palace, Thomas? That's the one that I go to all the time. And no, you have not. But why not?
In your video, want to go?
Well,
maybe if you're going this year, I'll come with you and the girls.
Yes, you should. You should. Why do cars have such low headroom? I often have an issue with headroom. And Q7 has less headroom than a Q5. Well, those are Audi questions for that, but...
Those are Audi questions, and I'm not allowed to talk about Audi or else I get in trouble. But I will say this. make sure whenever you're looking at any car that you're familiar with how the seat controls work. Because I know in cases of Volkswagen, each and every one of our cars has height adjustable seating so that you can raise and lower the seating position. So for those of you long of torso and such, and I've got a long torso as well, make sure you put the seat down at its lowest level to give yourself an accurate representation of how much headroom there is out there. Now, let's be honest. Not all cars are as big as other cars, but you can be deceived by headroom by, looking at a car with a funny seating position. So make sure you take the time, adjust it, go into showrooms, have a look at cars. If one of your friends drives a car, go have a look at it. If you're buying a car, you're going to be driving this thing for years. Take a few extra minutes when you're shopping to make sure it does all the things you want it to. Think about what you like about your current car. Think about what you don't like. Make yourself a list and make sure before you make that next purchase that you tick all the boxes. You don't just fall in love with a color or something like that. And whether it's a Volkswagen or any car out there, we want you to be happy with that car because no manufacturer wants to sell you a product you're not happy with. So take your time, do your homework, you'll be happier. Trust me. And I won't get those calls in the morning.
Some of these questions, I'm not quite sure what they're referring to just because this is live, but there is a delay and it's taken me a while to get through the questions. So someone says, very cool. Is this car electric? I'm not sure which car you're referring to, but most of the stuff we put up here other than, the Golfs were not electric. Will there be an electric Charan?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Charan is one of our European products and such, and it went out of production a while ago. So I'm going to speculate no. Having said that, you did show some really cool video of the ID Buzz, which is essentially a modern take on the classic shape of the minivan, which is what the Charan was. So the short answer to that question is yes, only we won't call it a Charan. How's that go?
That sounds good. How long until the Volkswagen ID4 is released? We kind of talked about that. Kind of really don't really know. Well, I've asked you this many times. Will VW ever bring a pickup truck to Canada? Come on, where we've seen it in Europe, we've seen it in other markets. Why don't we get a mid-sized pickup truck?
Next question. Hard to say. As many of you know, Volkswagen has entered into an agreement with Ford last year to co-produce some product and such. Much of it will be destined for markets outside of North America. Whether or not something finds its way into our market, that's right now something I don't want to speculate on because there's so many variables that will go into this decision. Yeah, to me, I'm a Volkswagen guy. I love everything with the Volkswagen logo on it. I'd like to see, more sport utilities, pickup trucks, mini cars, you name it. But we have to be careful. Whatever we do, we have to make sure it fits with our marketplace in North America. And there's going to be a lot of focus groups, that take place before this. We've got a lot of engineers, we've got a lot of accountants that work for the company as well. And they're going to want to see the business case. And until we can prove to them that the business case is sound, it's still a work in progress. So that's what I'll say for today. Work in progress.
That's fair. This is just an opinion. Some reviewers claim that the 2020 Corolla sedan drives better than the 2020 Volkswagen Jetta. What does Thomas think about that? I think I know what Thomas is going to say, but go ahead, Thomas.
Well, I'm excited that in Canada there's 24, 25 different automotive manufacturers. Not as many as Australia. Like they're in the 60s over there. But there are hundreds of different cars, and there are millions of different buyers. In any normal non-COVID year, we sell about 2 million new cars in Canada. Pickup trucks, sport utilities, sedans, hatchbacks, Corollas, Jettas, you name it. I'm happy that there is the choice we have to drive whatever we want. All I'm going to say to that question is you should go and drive both. And the car that you think fits your needs should find its way into your driveway. I know it's in my driveway, and there's a reason for that. It's not just because they pay me to, because long before they paid me to, I was driving Volkswagens. So that's my answer. But to be fair, you've got to do it. And again, I talk back to the buying experience. Go out there, Take some time. You're going to be living with this car for years. You didn't buy the first house you looked at. Don't buy the first car you look at. Drive them. And everybody's got a different opinion. When we say performance to somebody, that means 0 to 60 times or 0 to 100 times. But to somebody else, it means performance means it starts every day. So make that list I talked about. What do you need to have in your next car? And if you can tick all the boxes, bang, you found your next car.
Great answer, Thomas. That's why I always love your answers. Will the Jetta GLI get the same power bump as the new Golf GTI?
Excellent question. With our new generation GLI, that's the current generation car, we were so excited because it now became the true GLI. Like, it has the MQB platform, which is the same platform that the GTI rides on. It has the same engine as the GTI, the same transmission as the GTI. It's a fantastic car. It really is the GTI with the trunk now. We're so excited, and sales are indicative of that because we've really seen a nice uptick on it. Now, for the next generation GTI, which is the one that's coming next year I talked about, there's going to be a little power bump, and we're working on final figures for North America. As to when exactly that finds its way into the GLI, I don't want to say next year. I want to say, again, we'll see. And I hate giving a we'll see answer, but they're going to be very close regardless. Whether they're exact for model year 2022 still remains to be seen. We're working out the final details for the 21 GLI right now, so we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if you haven't done it yet, you should take that GLI out for a drive. And to that Corolla guy who asked that question, drive the GLI.
Yeah, I think it's a really good value. That I gotta admit, and it's fun to drive. That was, it's basically, it ticks all the boxes for me, for sure.
Every question.
Another familiar name, Lee Bailey. Great job. Miss seeing you guys both. Miss seeing you too, Lee. Question for Thomas: how much are Volkswagen's plans being impacted by what the U.S. wants or needs?
Oh, wow, that's an excellent question, Lee, and I alluded to it in a couple of previous answers. It's huge. The North American market is just that. It is the North American market, and there are so many costs involved with bringing cars here. If it were as simple as, building a car, loading it on a ship and bringing it over, or loading on a train and shipping it up, that would be fantastic. But there's a lot of laws in place in Canada that you have to follow in order to bring vehicles in or even to manufacture them here. And when you consider the costs involved, if we are just building cars for Canada, let's say we decided tomorrow we're going to bring the Polo to Canada. Forget America, we're just going to bring it to Canada. Well, no problem. But we would have to federalize that car. That means we got to do all the crash tests, we have to do all the smog tests, we have to do everything just for the Canadian market. Well, you take that cost, divide it by the number of cars we think we're going to sell, and there's the price of the Polo. Now, if you do that in a North American viewpoint and you add in what you think is going to be sold in America, well, I think you can do the math. Suddenly, it becomes far more competitive. And in a competitive market, we know that we have to have cars at the right pricing. So the impact is massive. But at the same time, we have to be strong. And by strong, I mean our product team in Canada has to work with the U.S. product team and make their case and say, hey, we think this is a great option. Things like having heated seats in all our cars, things like migrating to more heated steering wheels in our cars. I keep saying cold weather stuff because, like I said, it snowed in Toronto yesterday. But we look at what our customers tell us. And if they want certain features, well, we have to make that case with our friends in the U.S. And they are friends because they have customers too. And we're really closer than you think. We're separated by a border, but our wants and needs and our tastes are really close. So influenced by them, but we also influence them. And I like to believe that we make the product better as a whole because we work together.
This is a good question. How strong is Volkswagen's commitment to manual transmissions? You are one of the few brands that still have a few in your product line. Will you keep happiness in the world for longer or go full auto sadness? Love that.
I think I may have written this question in, because right now I can tell you what's in the Tetzlaff driveway. Our stable is all Golf right now. We've got 3 Golf all-tracks and a Golf hatch, between my wife and kids. 3 of them are manuals. Now I'll tell you this. If I suddenly came home tomorrow and told my kids, hey guys, we're discontinuing the manual, well, there's a high degree of likelihood that I would end up sleeping in the garage. So in order to make sure that I'm sleeping in a comfortable bed, I'll promise you that as long as I'm breathing, we're going to be making manual transmissions. That's a promise.
That is awesome. That is a great answer. And please ask headquarters to consider adding features like heated steering wheel, folding mirrors, and sunroof to the Mark 8 Golf R. I think we touched on that already.
Working on.
Yeah, I love this comment. Hey, Max Power. Everyone watching, please click on that like button. You can do it. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Paul Reed, our friend. Any wagons coming out anytime soon, Thomas? Sorry if this has already been asked. It has not. It was late to the party. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Paul. Hope your wagon's doing good. Well, the wagon situation with Golf is very similar to the Golf R situation in that we had an extended run on the 2019s. We did not have a 2020 model year wagon, so we built a whole ton of 2019s. That way our dealers could have enough inventory to run with new cars all the way through to the end of 2020. So there's lots of stock, lots of all tracks, lots of sport wagons, front wheel drive for the sport wagon and all wheel drive, and for the all track, obviously only all wheel drive, manual shift and automatic. So we got lots of them. As to the future beyond 2020, that's up in the air right now. And again, it depends on where our customers vote. If we get a lot of people saying we have to get this wagon, well, then we're hopeful to get a Mark 8 wagon. But let's also put all our cards on the table. We've not even seen the Mark 8 wagon introduced yet in Europe, so we're going to have to follow them. We always do with the Golf line. We always come a little bit later. For better or worse, that's the reality, and I guess there's another we'll see tacked on to the end of that question. So fingers crossed.
All right. See you later, Paul. Continue watching. And you know what? I love Max Power. Hey, everyone hit that like button because he did that, and we got a whole bunch of more new likes. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Hit that like button. Paul, by the way, works for Motoring TV. So if you watch that on TSN, he works for them. So do you see Volkswagen moving upmarket at all? Kind of like Audi Light. You know who says that? Zach says that all the time. Zach from Motormouth, and he always says, Volkswagen's like Audi Light. Do you see that happening, Thomas?
Well, it's another interesting question in that you have to know your place in the market. And Volkswagen, look at our name. We are the people's car. I used the tagline earlier. We want to bring electric cars to millions, not just millionaires. That is not meant to say we're down market. It's like an Audi stripped out. It's like a low budget version of something else. No, absolutely not. But what we stand for is value. We want to give our customers the same value that they've grown accustomed to with Volkswagen. And by that, I mean, you've got a premium driving experience where you're feeling the car, you're feeling the road. You've got an excellent and elegant interior and an exterior that makes you proud to own. I once heard that it costs no more to make a pretty car than it does to make an ugly car. And I think our designers take that to heart. So we're going to keep delivering on these promises. Are we going to add, so many features and such that we price ourselves out of the market? I certainly hope not, because, Volkswagen wants to remain true to the roots. We want to have all the latest tech, but we want to make sure we do that at a price point that's conducive to what our market is asking for. So we're going to be honest. We're going to be fair. We're going to be as true to the Volkswagen norm as we can. If that means reaching a little bit, well, that's going to depend on what our customers ask for. If all of them are asking for something, trust me, we'll deliver it. All
right. This is an interesting question. Will the Touareg ever come back to Canada? Thomas, years ago, I asked you, I wanted to actually buy a Touareg. Before I bought my Toyota Highlander, I was ready to buy a Touareg. but they weren't available. Like, well, I think it was like a 6-month waiting list. They were so popular because the rest of the world wanted them, and we didn't rate as high for the quantity they can make in Germany. And the European Touareg is beautiful. Can we get that here? Or do we have to settle for the Atlas only? Which is not bad.
I'm gonna answer that question by first eliminating the word settle from your vocabulary, because we don't. The Atlas was the car that so many people had been asking us for in North America. They wanted a large sport utility because a lot of people were telling us, hey, we need to haul 7 people around all the time, 6, 7, and luggage. So we came up with Atlas, we brought it out, and lo and behold, the thing took off like a rocket. And now the Touareg, very popular in Europe, and it had its success in North America, especially originally, but it was limited in that, the wheelbase was such that there was no way we could make this into a real 7-passenger car. Now, there were some people that said, well, we'll offer both. But we felt right off the bat that would muddy the waters a little bit, that would confuse people because, you've got Atlas and you've got Touareg, and outside they're kind of the same size, but inside they're different and they're priced different. We went with Atlas, and as I mentioned, sales were off the charts. Now, we're listening to our customers and they're saying, we kind of like this funky good looks of the Touareg, a little bit sportier. That's where the Cross Sport came in, and you had the opportunity to drive this at the end of February. Take your Atlas, shave a few centimeters off the back, rake the rear window, make it a 5-passenger vehicle, and voila, you have your North American version of the Touareg. Now, for those of you saying, well, I still want a Touareg, well, there's nothing stopping you, I guess. You could always go over to Europe and get one. But I'll tell you, you might want to do your conversions on the Euro compared to North America, because what we're hearing is there's a lot of Europeans that are looking at the Cross Sport saying, we want that one over here, because the price value proposition is fantastic, especially when you consider that new for the model and coming on Atlas in model year 2021, we've got our 4-cylinder turbo made it to 4Motion all-wheel drive. So you've got it at such a great price point. You're under $40K for a vehicle that looks like, wow. And again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If that's not your kettle of fish, as I mentioned, there's 24 other brands out there. We hope you'll consider Volkswagen, obviously, but we don't want to sell you something you don't want. I like our cars. I think a lot of people like our cars. Sales figures speak volumes, and I think the Cross Sport is going to do some really serious volume with the customer that traditionally would have bought Touareg.
I honestly thought that the Cross Sport, it does look really good for a crossover sport utility, like a sport version of a CUV or SUV. But I think that this is the Atlas that should have been, like the very first one, I think. But anyways, happiness doesn't. Both. Yes, exactly. Doesn't pay the bills. We're just talking about the manual transmissions. 95% of Americans, Canadians are not interested in manual transmissions. That is true. And I always say, everyone says, hey, save the manuals, like the shirt says. But how many people do buy manuals? Hey, I have bought brand new cars with manual transmissions, and there are people out there. So as long as you're going to buy it, if you're going to say save the manuals, hey, go out there and buy one. Don't just talk about it. So agree with the comments.
Walk.
Yes, exactly. Walk the walk, talk the walk. Talking about the Golf 8 feature set. They need memory seats, shared spouses, ventilated seats, more adjustability. That new Golf 8 has a lot. It is a real premium product, and it's going to address a lot of those things. And John, I'm going to put this up again. If you see it, his whole comment doesn't come through, but he owns 2 2019s Golfs and an R as well. So I think this limits to this is how big the comment can be. I don't know. So we have another comment about the T-Rock. Well, we talked about that. How can one be part of that focus group? I don't know which focus group we're talking about here.
I mentioned the focus group earlier.
Oh, sorry.
Brian, talking about some future products.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was busy switching away. By the way, if everyone, comment below if you like this whole format. I'm using this new program called Ecamm Live. It's only available for a Mac, but I think it looks pretty slick. How we can have picture-in-picture, we can put videos up, and I can show your comments up there. So I'll leave a link if anyone's interested on this program. You can use that. But yeah, so anyway, sorry. Sometimes I'm missing what you say, Thomas, because I'm trying to produce the show at the same time. So yes, the focus group. This is like juggling and spinning a plate and everything at the same time. Great job on the Arteon. Are you worried that's going to become the next Phaeton? It looks cool and drives well, but it seems a little overpriced. Yeah.
No, not at all.
How are sales, by the way, on that?
Sales on the Arteon are quite adequate, I'll say, Brian. We had modest expectations for this car. This was not something that we thought would be, oh yeah, this is going to rival Jetta. No, this is the premium car for somebody who is really looking for aesthetics. It is, look at the name. It's Arteon. It's all about the art of the car. And you mentioned earlier, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
If you like it, here's an opportunity to drive a really nice premium European car. 5-door, so we're talking about a liftback, all-wheel drive. It's got everything, and you're getting it at a price point under $50K. That's out of a lot of people's league, and that's okay. But judging by what I see on the streets here, 100K is in a lot of people's, bailiwick. So, we're happy to be able to provide this. We will continue selling it. However many we sell, that's fantastic. Everyone looks great on the road.
Here's a little personal question. Which VW is your current daily driver, Thomas? Yeah, that's a good one. Because Thomas says you have a few Volkswagen in your fleet. Just a couple.
Yeah, I got one. Right now, I'm rocking an all-track with a manual shift. So, your classic, it answers the questions that so many have had already today. Wagons, manual shifts, Golf family. I love it. It's the answer for 75% of Canadians. It's got all the room. I just recently had to do some work around the house last week. I had I had the rear seats folded down, had it full. Everything fit, yet it still drove comfortably and returned excellent fuel economy. Great sunroof. The all-track looks-wise, I'll say it for the 5th time, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I love the looks of this car. It fits in everywhere. You can go to the Home Depot or you can go to the Opera. It looks great.
What are the targets for the ID4? Are you expecting conquest sales or current owners to purchase it? This is an interesting question because I was thinking the same thing. How will Volkswagen balance profitability versus MSRP given that purchase price appears to be a barrier for EVs?
Well, this opens up the greater question of affordabilities of EVs as a whole. Now, you have to look at it holistically, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole too deep, but I'm going to have to enter it a little bit. When you buy a car, you're essentially paying the cost of admission. You're walking in the door, you're taking that car home. Along with that, you've got all the costs that go with it. Fuel, insurance, maintenance, repairs, everything. So before you look at the price of a car, I suggest you go back and look 5 years in the past. Look at your current car. Think of all the things you did in the last 5 years and then start doing the math. When we look at electric cars, you have to consider, I'm not putting any gas in this car. I'm doing significantly less maintenance on this car. I am able to fill it up at home, meaning every night when I come home, for most people, not all Canadians will be able to fill up at home, if you will, but if you have a driveway or access to a driveway where you can plug it in, you can fill it up at home. So you've got opportunity there not to go to a filling station. There are so many costs associated with owning a vehicle. You really need to do the entire math. So if you look at an EV right now, and I don't know a single EV on the market that costs less than its same style gasoline-powered car. They all cost a little bit more. Some a little, some a lot. It depends on what the model is. We are going to price our cars competitively. We're going to make sure they're affordable because if they're not, guess what? They're going to languish. They're going to sit on dealers' lots. They're going to get dusty. And then 20 years later, we're going to have people asking if we've got dusty ones lying around. So that's not going to happen. We're going to make them competitive. But you've got to do the math. You've got to look at all of the costs associated with owning a vehicle. And I think when you play it out 2, 3, 4 years in the future, you'll see, holy cow, these EVs really are affordable. And depending on your driving style, how many kilometers you do per year, how far you drive and such, they quickly become more affordable than gasoline-powered cars. They're the future. That's the fact. How far that future is out, that's a question that I can't answer today.
Do you think a vehicle like the ID4 or the Cross or whatever it's going to be called will be competitive against the likes of like the Tesla Model Y?
Oh yeah, like that's a tough. I didn't anticipate that. Absolutely, absolutely. Tesla's had great success in the market by providing good cars at reasonable prices. You know, if we've stolen anything from the company, that's what we stole. We looked at them and said, hey, you know, build a good car, price it properly, people will buy it. We have to hit this one right. And as I mentioned earlier, I see our product planners working on this project, and I see how they're sweating the details, how they're making sure it's got all the right features, that the price is, you know, their pencils are getting sharpened daily to make sure the price is right. Will we be competitive? Absolutely.
You heard that. Snoop Dogg is asking, will VW ever bring back a convertible to Canada?
Well, I think a couple of questions ago, somebody asked me what I'm driving on a daily basis, and I answered that. But what I didn't say was I've got an old Volkswagen Rabbit convertible in the garage, and that's been my fun driver for the last, let's say, 30 plus years. That's all I'm going to say. I hope so. I really do hope so, because, you know, as much as cars are transportation and they take us from point to point and they get us to work and school and shopping and all that stuff, they're fun too. And on a beautiful summer day like you're getting in BC right now, there's nothing better than a convertible. So my fingers are crossed. I would love to see it. Right now, we've got a couple hundred Beetle convertibles left on dealer lots.
Wow.
And when they're gone. And I'm hopeful that we've got something in the hopper coming, because that gets there. And
like
I need one.
Like an electric Beetle, maybe?
Oh, an electric Beetle convertible.
Ooh. Danny Bailey is here, and I'm not going to answer his question yet because I want to get to a couple other questions. But Danny, if you're still there, hold on to that question for a second. How long have you been working at Volkswagen, and where are you based from, Thomas?
Well, I'm based in the Toronto area. Our head office is just east of Toronto. And I guess you could say that I've been with Volkswagen for all of my life. My dad was a Volkswagen technician, so I grew up with a number 13 wrench in my hand, you could say, learning how to take Beetle engines and transmissions out. I joined the company officially back in '98, so I'm celebrating. I celebrated actually 22 years with the company a couple of months ago, and I'm hoping I got another 22 left to go. We'll see.
That's awesome. We kind of answered this. Danny is watching about the reviews of the ID3 and when will they be in Canada. Well, the ID3 is at this point is not coming to Canada. Probably not.
For today, the answer is no. For tomorrow, everything is subject to change. Market conditions are going to dictate everything we decide in the future. You know, my fingers are crossed. I always see, opportunities, but at the same time, we have to be very careful, because if you make too many mistakes, it's disastrous, and we can't have that.
This is directed to you, Thomas. Thank you for your service toward manuals, a manual performance SUV for families that need space but don't want to give up on life. A free idea for you to stand out. I can promise at least one sale. There you go. You got one sale, Thomas. One sale, at least.
A manual SUV, and I have to say, we were one of the last. We offered the manual shift on our previous generation Tiguan. I know, because I had one. And everything we make with a manual sells pretty well. We have really nice penetration rates with Golf, with Jetta, with GTI, and all that stuff. But on Tiguan, wow, you want to talk low single digits? It was low single digits. Even I did not shed a tear when we dropped the manual on the Tiguan, because I think I was one of 4 people that year that drove one. So, at some point in time, you got to cut it out.
So, what happened to the Jetta hybrid? Now that there's no more diesels, any chance of more hybrids?
We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Hybrids right now we have a limited number of hybrids on our European stable. They've been received quasi well over there, and we see enough that we can justify the investment over there. But for North America, as I mentioned again, or I mentioned previously, our focus right now is 100% battery electric. And that's why we've invested so much time and effort into it. In Canada alone, we funded Electrify Canada, which is a corporation that's right now building a cross-Canada network of charging stations. And it's not just for Volkswagen, it's for all manufacturers. But we want to be part of an electric future. And we believe, for North America at least, that pure battery electric is the way to go. We're investing in the technology, we're investing in the infrastructure, and that's where we're going to go. If there is enough of a groundswell in the days, weeks, and years to come for the plug-in hybrids and such, we'll give it another look. But right now, all battery, all the time.
Okay, is there going to be an all-new Passat?
Well, I can answer that one. There is an all-new Passat. We actually just launched last year the model year 2020 Passat. The platform was modified slightly, but the exterior was completely changed. We kept the glass, we kept the roof, everything else got freshened. So we've got a fresh, brand new Passat in dealer showrooms right now. They just kind of arrived in the last few months. As to the future Passat, like another generation, we're going to take a breather right now. We put everybody to work getting this new body done. We've now told them, okay, we need you to work on the next generation Jetta. We'll come back to Passat and make decisions on that probably in about a year or two's time.
All right. And I'm going to come back to the question from our good friend Danny Bailey, DB, a fellow videographer based out where you live. Thomas, what's your all-time favorite VW launch in the world? And I have not talked to you about this question at all, Thomas. I have pulled up my favorite VW launch, but I just want to see if it's similar to you, because I actually have a video of what I think that was one of my favorites. Like I said, that one driving the ID Buzz and all, being behind the scenes that in LA, that was pretty epic. But yeah, if I were to pick one, I think there's one that I have. What about you?
I know Danny's trying to put me on the spot here, and I remember, we went to a rally event. It wasn't really a launch; it was a rally event, and I can still remember doing a little bit of sightseeing with Danny in downtown Polo, which was kind of cool. That ranks up there, and I mentioned with you earlier our trip to Australia, where we had a chance to sample some right-hand drive Scirocco talent down there, which was pretty awesome. But I'm going to hedge my bets, and I'm going to say anytime we're driving a new Volkswagen, it's my favorite launch event. So my favorite is the next one. So let's get out there. Let's break barriers and let's get driving again.
What a question. What an answer. I mean, so my favorite, you're seeing it on the screen right here, is Australia, the final WRC race of the season and the final race of Volkswagen's participation in the series. This was just, of course I was excited to go to Australia. Who doesn't want to go to Australia and see the kangaroos and see, everything that has to offer. But I wasn't expecting the type of emotion that we experienced there, because the teams themselves didn't even find out till like a couple weeks prior to this event that Volkswagen was pulling the plug on the entire race series, even though they dominated the series. And just look at these images here. And to see this type of talent, if you've never seen a rally race, and unfortunately in North America, rally racing isn't as big as it is in Europe, but wow, it's real. It really is. That you can get nice and close. All the people are so close, and you're right in the thick of things. You can see everything. And the drivers are so talented. They are just flying. The margin of error is like nothing. There was one stage, I believe, and it was like a 55-kilometer stage. I don't know if you remember this, Thomas, but the 55-kilometer stage, and the margin between first and second place was, it was like, I think eight seconds. or even less. It's insane. Like one mess up and you're done. Like you're not even gonna make the podium anymore. It's so good. But yeah, and the very last day when they did the podium, even prior to the podium, when they came into the pits, and all the crews were not just from the Volkswagen Motorsport crew, but all the crews from all the other manufacturers, Hyundai and Ford, and everyone came by. And as you see here, everyone, there's so much emotion, not just for the winning team, but all the teams, because they're one big happy family. That's what I noticed, is that regardless of what team you are working for, this is a traveling world circus essentially, and they're all friends, and it was so sad. It was so sad. But yeah, here look at this. This is Sebastian Ogier right there. He's coming in. He came in second because he spun out. I think it was day one. He actually did a one spin out, and that was it. That cost him the podium on first place. And, look at the emotions are just incredible. But yeah, so that was unbelievable. Yeah, like look at them. Like there's other teams there, and yeah, and then the kangaroos.
Kangaroos were pretty awesome, and I remember it well. Obviously, being there with you, and having had the opportunity to go to so many of these rally events around the globe. It was tremendous. But it wasn't just the fun involved. It really was a learning experience, because our engineers used this series. We were in the series 4 years. We were the world champion 4 years. We had the drivers' championship 4 years. So we met with great success there. And part of it obviously was the drivers, but the engineers really have to get a lot of the credit here, because they put the work in to make sure that our cars were unbreakable. And that technology that we put in to our rally Polos there, that trickles down. That trickles down to, the Golf that you take to the grocery store, that made its way into the Atlas, that made its way into the Arteon and the Passat and the Jetta and all of our cars. Because when you push a vehicle to the limits, and with rally driving, we really are talking about the physical limits of a motor vehicle, you learn so much. And you can only learn if you push just a little bit too hard. And we did a little bit of that too. And, we broke a lot of things. Unfortunately, not a lot of bones, which was good. But we broke parts along the way. Then we just made them better. And we learned from that. And the fact that we were able to take part in these events at such great locations, that made it kind of fun too. And seeing a kangaroo live and in person, that was neat.
Just
it was crazy.
I'm going to reiterate again that just the caliber of drivers it's just amazing. But they're not just drivers; they are mechanics as well. They're responsible sometimes. They're doing their own repairs on the car, if need be, right then. And they're driving from they start at 6 a.m. To start heading to the compound, getting their car, and they don't end. And sometimes there's night stages. They don't end until 9 p.m. maybe later. It's a whole different world in racing. So it really opened my eyes up to that, because I just didn't understand rally until I watched a WRC event. Just a couple more questions, Thomas. I know it's about dinner time there, obviously. By the way, what do you have for dinner? I always like to ask us.
I think we're having pulled pork tonight, Brian. Thank you for asking.
Nice. Is Volkswagen going to bring anything to battle the Toyota Supra?
Oh, well, I would suggest that Volkswagen with the Golf R is already really in that battle. And with the new Golf R coming next year, we're going to take it to another level. This is truly the everyday supercar. And I know it's easy to overuse that word supercar, but here's a car that goes 0 to 100 in not a lot of time. It has amazing all-wheel drive traction, great brakes, superb dynamics, but inside you can take your grandmother for a ride, keep a very, very soft right foot on the pedal, and she thinks it's just a luxury car. It really does do everything. And for those of you looking to go a little bit more hard-edged on it, well, I guess you can always rip out the passenger seat and drive a little bit faster. But, every time I'm driving a Golf R, I'm blown away by how well it handles everything from driving to the racetrack, driving on the racetrack, to driving home from the racetrack. It really does it all. Will we build something beyond that, a crazy 500 horsepower version? Not just yet, but as I mentioned previously, we've got a couple of other brands in the stable, namely, the Audis and the Lamborghinis and such, and they make some pretty hot cars too. So if you're looking for something a little bit zestier, just walk across the parking lot, and I'm sure you'll find something that fits your needs.
I remember seeing the concept or a prototype at Versailles of the Golf R400. Now that I would like to see. Yeah, a 400 horsepower production version of the Golf R. Will VW bring the Polo to Canada? Is there a market for something smaller than the Golf?
I think one of our first questions addressed this, and the subcompact market in Canada, that sucking sound you're hearing right now, that's the subcompact market. They're circling the brain right now, and I love them, but I'm really in the minority here, so you can't hold the sea back with a broom. So the answer to that, not happening anytime soon, I'll say.
Will the Arteon be available with a larger engine?
At the present time, we are going with a single engine strategy on the Arteon, so the 268 horsepower turbocharged engine is what's going to be in there. So we're sticking with that for now.
Will the Golf R still come in manual? I believe you answered that already. Yeah, hello.
It will. You better believe it.
Now, my question to you, Thomas, one of my last questions is, because of COVID-19, we talked about sales are slow right now. Volkswagen is doing similar things like other manufacturers, like offering 0% financing, in some cases, no payments for 90 days. I think there's a maintenance free for 60,000 K. Besides that, when is a good time to buy a car now? Is this a good time after, in the near future, in the next 2-3 months, is this a good time to buy a Volkswagen?
Well, if you remember the show from the 50s, there's an episode where she's working in a chocolate factory, and there's a conveyor belt, and I think her job was to package the chocolates into the boxes. And she's new on the job, and she has a hard time, and she ends up taking the chocolates, and she doesn't know what to do with them, so she starts eating them and stuffing them in her pockets and such. Well, take a look at the COVID-19 situation. We've got a conveyor belt full of cars, and suddenly the people that normally buy cars at the other end are all in their basement watching Netflix. So we right now are sitting on about 2 months worth of inventory. There could not be a better time to go shopping for a motor vehicle, Brian. There are cars everywhere. We are aggressive with our deal making. The cars themselves are fresh and new, and our dealers they're getting them all spiffy and shiny and ready to go. You could not pick a better time. And no one likes to take advantage of a crazy situation like this. But if there's deals to be had, you may as well grab them up, because I don't know if they're ever going to come around like this again.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna leave that there for now, Thomas. This has been quite a long live session. I really appreciate you coming on, answering all the questions that our viewers have. I think you pretty well nailed most of them there. And we have one more. Is ID3 coming to Canada? Please, no. At this current time, we did answer that. It is not coming. But from Everyday Reviews, Thomas, I really hope that we can see each other soon in person. I do enjoy the virtual aspect as well, but I hope that you and your family are staying safe. And I wish the best for you for the near future. And hang tight though. Don't hang up yet. So anyway, sorry. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and give me some ideas of what other things that you would like to see on this channel. So from Everyday Reviews, thanks a lot, and see you later. And I do have a video coming here.
I just happen to have my hat ready.